and step out into the air.
Woo!
It's called highlining, done on public lands, a perfectly legal activity that most of us, including your correspondent, who stayed far back from cliff's edge, would never dream of undertaking.
I'm always a little bit nervous no matter how many I do.
But Haley Ashburn and Scott Rogers, members of a group called the Moab Monkeys, do this sort of thing several times a week.
You're forced to narrow your focus. So I'm thinking about the anchor at the other side and how bad I want to get there, and I'm thinking about how long it's been since I took my last step and when I'm going to take my next step and what my foot feels like on the line.
It's this really rush of overwhelming happiness because you've done something that you were terrified, and then you overcame that fear. And then all of a sudden, you're proud of yourself, you know, you feel empowered, like you can do anything, really.
In highlining, skywalkers are tethered to the line.
Right here, right now.
As this video of Scott Rogers shows, that's not the case in other new sports like base jumping, in which jumpers launch themselves off stationary objects like cliffs and pull a parachute at the key moment. Timing is everything, the room for error very small. Rogers and Ashburn know people who've died when the wind blew them back into the cliff or their parachute was opened too late. But that doesn't stop them, and it certainly doesn't stop them from capturing their exploits on video and posting them online.
I love spreading the joy because I feel like we know the secret about life, about when you do things that are scary and you overcome your fears. Not only is it the most fun you'll ever have, but it's so empowering and it changes the whole rest of your life. And I mean, being out here doing what we do and making media like that is our goal for sure.
It's taking something that's part of our life and then showing it to the world and saying, hey, look, you can have fun doing these things that you didn't even realize existed.
But there's, of course, another way of looking at and being part of this extraordinary landscape, one that's quieter, calmer, and sees the beauty, the drama, the extremes, if you will, in the land itself. The red rock walls, towering spires, winding rivers, plunging canyons. In this way of experiencing the wilderness, the long walk, the light footprint, the contemplation of man's small part in the universe take precedence.
The question is, what sort of land protection do you want? And what sort of ethic do you want to evolve with a younger generation? Part of what the struggle is right now is for quiet users to have the space they need.
Colorado historian and nature writer Andrew Gulliford says cultural shifts in how people view the outdoors have raised important new questions.
We have a long tradition of public land use in the American West. The new kinds of outdoor activities, though, the extreme sport activities, there's not a lot of nature involved. So today's generation is treating the outdoors as a dirty gym. And that's not what was thought about 50 years ago with the 1964 Wilderness Act, with the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. So those conservation laws were about preserving nature for nature's sake. And we've got a new generation of extreme sports enthusiasts who simply want to go out, use the outdoors, photograph themselves with special little cameras, and then hit the brew pub by dark and talk about their exploits.
All right, kick back, relax, and grab yourself a beverage.
There's been much talk about this particular exploit, a rope swing at Corona Arch, an iconic landmark just outside Moab. The YouTube video put out in 2012 has had more than 25 million views online.
And if you don't know by now, then you need more schooling. Let loose, kid, get stupid.
It also got the attention of the Federal Bureau of Land Management, which had recently taken over the arch from the state of Utah in a land swap, and which administers so much of this state and other parts of the West.
And it's just created over time. And
Megan Crandall is a BLM spokeswoman. So we learn about this on videos that we see. How do you learn about it?
The same way you do.
What was your reaction?
Holy cow. No, I mean, my reaction, I was just blown away. Wow, that's incredible.
And then what happens? You have to figure out how to manage this.
Right. Certainly we have a responsibility to manage for some of these new uses, but as we've seen with roped activities, it was like a firestorm. It took off, it gained in popularity, and we just saw usage in that way surge.
The surge of use included 1 death and 1 serious injury by rope swingers who misjudged how long their ropes needed to be. Crandall says BLM policy is that people use public lands at their own risk. But the agency does look at a variety of factors, including damage to the rocks and the impact on those who want to experience the arch the old-fashioned way. And while they study these impacts, federal officials have proposed a ban on roped activities at Corona.
What we're doing is we are putting out for public comment a suggestion that we institute a temporary 2-year restriction on roped activities to give us the time and space we need to really evaluate if continuing to allow those activities here is the most appropriate use of the area.
The Moab monkeys, of course, say they love the land too and are happy to share it.
Seems like a really long flight.
But Haley Ashburn says there are plenty of public places for those who complain about the disruption of the extreme sports.
If they want peace, they should go to Arches or any national park. I call those no fun allowed zones.
The national parks?
Yeah, it's like going to be nice and quiet. Nobody's going to be base jumping, and nobody's going to be bolting anything. There's nobody going to be screaming and yelling and having a really amazing time.
It's just something that we need to explore here.
The BLM's Megan Crandall suggests that argument works both ways, that there's also plenty of room for roped activities if a ban is put in at Corona Arch.
There are other places in the Moab field office area where you can still engage in these activities, but at least for us, we want to take the time to really think about whether it's appropriate for those to continue here.
The BLM is taking public comments on the issue through the end of this month.